Now, I am kinda torn between the Vazago and Villain, mostly for the highest DPS category. This thing is performing really well now. The Serpentis webs are fantastic, and with the webs you actually do apply most of the bomber DPS, and this ship can have some fantastic DPS output. So it has 10% bonus on turrets and 7.5% bonus on missiles. The Villain is a faction carrier that should be used with turret lightweight ships, but you can also do the bomber fleet easily, and you can also do a mix. So the build on this ship is the same as with the Astarte. This is a armor tank ship. The rigs are also the same, triple lightweight burst aerators, and I have some capacitor rigs. Most of the engineering rigs are the same for all of these ships. And the hangar modification currently is the hangar modification that allows you to fit 4 destroyers. The implant will be the Bombard Tactics implant. For now it still works with lightweight ships, but as I've mentioned before, at one point it will be replaced by a new implant that will be only for the lightweight ships. So let's undock and let's check out the maximum possible DPS with the current build. Now, I usually run this ship with the Catalyst destroyers, although you can basically use any other lightweight ships that you have. But if you want the maximum DPS, if you want the best bonus for DPS, then you should stick with the turrets, but that doesn't mean that missiles are going to be bad. Missiles will have some very interesting DPS and very interesting application on the Villain. Now, aesthetically speaking, the Villain looks awesome. I would say one of the more epic designs, and I really like that hangar in the mid-section of the ship. It's basically a Thanatos, but slightly modified to have a lot more hangars. 11,335.46 DPS with the first mod, with second 12,185, with the third one it's 13,812.19, and with the last one the DPS is 14,342.98. So the DPS with the turret lightweight ships is about the same as the DPS on the Astarte. The main difference would be in how much damage they do to the target because of the webs. Serpentis ships have a very nasty bonus on web strength. They also have a very nasty bonus on web range. 22.2 kilometer is the range with webs, and 91.5% is the web strength per web. So your target will be stationary, and it will be very easy for your lightweight ships to do their full damage. They will be doing basically a lot of wrecking hits, a lot of penetrating hits, and that by itself will improve the clear time, and technically it improves how much damage you do. Now, let me quickly add all of these destroyers in the ship bay, and I will now assemble the usual build that I used for the last 2 videos. Basically, I'll have one destroyer of each faction. Now, if you use the faction destroyers, the green ones, the green lightweight ships, your DPS will be a lot higher because they have some special traits, and I expect them to change the lightweight ships the same way they changed drones. So you have lightweight ships for speed, lightweight ships for damage, and you also have lightweight ships for other main characteristics, and that's going to be very interesting. But for now, all of them have roughly the same DPS. And let's undock and let's see the DPS with this current layout. Now the DPS will appear a little bit lower because the Corax is actually using missiles, and the Corax will have the 7.5% bonus, while the other turret lightweight ships will get the 10% bonus. So on paper, the turret lightweight ships will get a higher damage bonus than the Corax. 9.6 thousand DPS. Okay, it's a little bit lower, like 200 DPS difference right now. About 200, might be a bit more, might be a bit less, it's just rough calculation. With the first module, it's 11,099.31. With the second one, the DPS is 12,519.17. With the third one, the DPS is 13,524.44. And with the last one, it's 14,044.17 DPS. So yeah, it's about the same, a little bit lower, but it shouldn't be that noticeable in combat. But again, we will test that out in combat in a moment. Now I know a lot of you guys have asked me to show you the maximum DPS on the frigates, on the interceptors, and I will do that in this video. The DPS on the interceptors will be a little bit lower, but the interceptors will give you 3 scramblers per squad, per lightweight ship squad. So technically you can have 9 points with 3 frigates, which is interesting. Okay, now let me apply the build back. This will not replace the hang modification, but it will save me some time in finding all the necessary modules. I spent so much time scrolling through the modules, it's not funny, but this saves a lot of time because I can get the build back. Basically the same build, but the only difference is the lightweight ship slots. Okay, let me add some bombers to show you the bomber DPS, and then I will show you the frigate DPS. Should be interesting, and I think when I checked it out last time, the difference wasn't that big, but still, frigates are mostly for the tackle purpose. 7,112.44 DPS. Interesting. If you use the Corax in the destroyer slot, then the DPS will be a little bit lower, but I keep the one destroyer there in the slot because it's a Gallant destroyer. And now let's orbit. Let's see the maximum DPS. The DPS is of course getting tripled with the drum bombs, so the actual DPS is somewhere about 45,000-50,000 DPS, or somewhere about 60 to 70,000 DPS if you use the faction lightweight ships. 10,099. Okay, that's a very nice number. With the one damage mode, 11,339.55. With the second one, it's 13,128.97. With the third one, the DPS is 14,183.21, and with the fourth one, the DPS is at 14,728.26. So, you know, somewhere about 44,000-45,000 DPS, 50,000 and above if you use the faction lightweight ships. So, overall, really solid DPS, and it does have about the same DPS as the Astarte. And now, let's do the frigate fleet, the interceptor fleet. Now, the interceptors are fast. Their purpose is to intercept ships, and you can have a lot of tackle on these things, which, you know, is quite interesting. So, that's a Atron interceptor fitted. Let me outfit one of each faction, just so that I keep the same rule. Okay, the executioner is added, and now let's add the slasher. And well, this is the frigate fleet, the non-bomber frigate fleet, 7,060.39 DPS. So as I mentioned before, a little bit lower DPS, but you know, it's still some really good DPS. And now let's undock and let's check out the
Undocking.
maximum DPS that we can get with a build like this, with this current setup. So about 14,000, 21,000 DPS with the drum bombs, or about 28,000 DPS. Okay, 10,519.46, 11,865.14, 12,817.19, and the last one, 30,310.48. Honestly, this is about 39,000 DPS. Or if you have the offense lightweight interceptors, that would be about 50,000 DPS, which honestly is still pretty good. And there is, well, not many ships that can survive that DPS. All, well, not all, but most sub-capitals will get yeeted pretty quickly, even with the frigates. And you also have some tackle, which, you know, is always a nice thing to have, and they're quite fast, so they're quite good at chasing down ships. And there's this one destroyer that also will do some very nice DPS. Okay, well, so far we are off to a good start with the villain.
Docking.
A truly interesting boat. And well, let's do
Autopilot engaged.
let's test out
Destination
the
reached.
actual performance, because, you know, numbers on paper and the actual performance in combat are two different things. And I did say on the start of the video that the bomber fleet performs surprisingly well with the villain. That is because of the webs.
Warp
Now,
drive active.
it is no secret that the slower your target goes, the better the missile application will be. That's why speed tanking missiles is a very effective thing. You can speed tank missiles on auto ships if you have a decent speed and if your signature radius is not big enough. But if you are webbed, if you are heavily webbed by a, let's say, Serpentis ship, then you will not be moving that fast, and all that missile DPS will be applied properly. And this makes a very interesting theory.
We're under attack.
A theory that says missiles on this
We're
ship
under
will
attack.
potentially perform better or almost equal to the turrets. And I can tell you right away that that seems to be the case. I have blown up these couple of ships very quickly. I would say it feels like I blew them up a bit faster than with the previous two carriers. And this is, you know, this is what's making me think about which one of the faction carriers has the highest DPS. Now on paper, it should be the Vazago, but paper DPS is one thing,
Enemy
applied
ships
DPS is a whole different story.
We're under
And
attack.
if the villain can apply more damage
We're
with the missiles,
under
and if
attack.
the villain can make the accuracy of the destroyers be much better and more accurate with the web targets, then technically the villain will have the highest DPS outputs with the highest clear times. That is just a theory. Now, with the Astarte, I got about 45 million ISK per tick. With the Vazago, I had about 55 million ISK per hour. About that number. With this ship, I don't know how much I will get. We will find out in this video. But based on the
Enemy
current
ships detected.
performance and clear time, I would say maybe
under
about
attack.
60 to 70 million ISK per hour. That's again just my expectation, and again, just a theory. The actual tick, when I get the tick, will prove me right or wrong. But so far, I have to say that I'm very happy with how the villain is working. This thing is so far shredding these ships, and as it stands, this might be the fastest bomber run that I have so far. We will see how the Anaconda will perform. There's a chance that the Anaconda might reclaim the title of the best DPS, but we will find out. It's kind of difficult to classify all of these ships because their performance is all so similar, but there are some differences, of course, that are very crucial and very important. And I account for all of that in my ship evaluation, so it will be very fun to see the final result. Well, the bombers are doing a very good job so far, a surprising good job. And I believe if you had target painters and if you built the ship for, well, you can technically launch the lightweight ships from 200 kilometers, so you can technically use it as a long-range ship if you like, but in my case I just like to yeet at 0 for now. But you can use it as a sniper easily, or a long-range ship. Not a sniper because you have no high sectors to be a sniper, but you know, you can technically snipe with the lightweight ships. Would be funny if we had like lightweight sentry turrets or sentry ships. That would be hilarious.
We're under attack.
Or perhaps it would be a bad idea. I don't know. Again, we will find out eventually if they introduce that, but so far it doesn't seem that's the case. But it's a very funny idea indeed. So let's keep mowing down the ships. So far the bombers are doing really well. Quite happy with their performance. The orbit is set at their optimal range, by the way, the bomber optimal range, so they'll be doing their damage just fine. The bomb implants, I don't know, man. I just say that the bombard tactics implant needs to be nerfed. Like, that thing needs to be nerfed from 300% to about, I would actually set it at 200%, or even I would actually half the DPS from 300 to 250. Even then it's going to be very, very overpowered. So yeah, that's one implant that definitely needs to be nerfed, because it does just so much damage. Not because of the carriers, but because of some of the ships. Some of the smaller ships that are just broken, and they're so broken it's not even funny. And those ships need to be well, not the ship itself, but the implant needs to be nerfed because of those ships. And this thing has 1 million in armor still, which is fantastic hit points. It's still tanky, even with this build, and that is hilarious. Tanky, and it has a good capacitor. And with the webs you can actually defend yourself really well against tackle ships. Once you web something with this thing, it's dead. And I primarily use the webs on this thing as a defensive measure against potential tackle ships. I would use it at least in that purpose, but you can also use it in a more combative way.
Under attack.
28 ships, this might be the last wave, I believe, 5 out of 5. And I like how they spawned right next to me. Look at those bombers wrecking those ships, it's just insane. They are killing them faster than I can lock them. And all of these ships are popping like popcorn. There is a explosion every second, and I find that quite hilarious. Now, someone asked me when will the price on these ships go down. I believe their price will go down with the introduction of faction dreadnoughts, although I'm fairly sure that these things will remain expensive even then. And I think it's actually a lot cheaper to manufacture the ship for yourself than to actually manufacture it and then buy it from someone, because they will probably give you a high price for this thing, or for any faction capital for all it matters. Because, you know, that's what they usually do. I mean, that's what happened to me. Like, I was offered I think it was a Astarte a couple of weeks ago for 200 billion ISK, fully fitted. Well, a fully fitted Astarte with the modules that it had was about 120 billion ISK worth. That's the real price, and even then, you should still get a good profit out of the ship. But I don't know. I felt like I was getting ripped off there with that offer. So, I mean, especially when I hear that some of my friends got the ship for a lot less, like 80, 90 billion. So that's why I felt like I was getting ripped off there. And well, it was actually, I would say, it definitely feels like the fastest run that I've had with one of these ships. This was super quick. This was extremely quick. Okay, let me get back the good old destroyer fleet. And it means I have to change the hangar modification. Now, I'm doing this because I want to show you the actual build, because there might be some speculation how I rig stuff, and you know, I'm showing you that everything is transparent here and there is nothing funky going on in the background. There is nothing suspicious going on. I show you how the ship performs with the exact build that I use here. Let me add some of the necessary destroyers in the necessary slots. I need a thrasher. Then I have to pick up a Corax. Okay, there is the thrasher. There is the courser. Let's add this one. And now I am only missing the Corax, the Calderi missile destroyer. And there it is, right in the slot, and now it's fully fitted and fully equipped. Okay, now this time the game decided not to give me the same mission. This is the 6 million ISK deserted experimental field mission. The only difference is it will have a bit more ships in the last two waves, so not really comparable with the bomber fleet. But I got very curious to see how quick will this thing clear it, especially with the webs, and especially since this is a Serpente ship, and it means that it will apply that damage. Well, it will cause the turrets to do a lot more wrecking hits, a lot more
warp drive active,
penetrating hits, and therefore that will by itself improve how much damage it's dealt to the target. And well, since turret lightweight ships are currently outperforming the missile ones, I believe that this might be a better challenge for the turret lightweight ships. So I'm not going to compare the clear times between the two lightweight ship types, mostly because it is not the same mission, and I believe it will take I believe this will actually take a bit longer to complete because it has more ships. So yeah, not really a accurate difference test between the clear times. If the mission was the same, then the clear time with the turret destroyers would of course be a bit fast, but since this is not the same mission, let's just see how quickly I can clear it. And well, the destroyers do a lot of damage. There is no denying that they are clearing this quite quickly. Okay, second wave spawned. Let's quickly lock on. I mean, it's the destroyer fleet, and we all know that the destroyers have some very nasty damage output here. And yeah, they are mowing these ships down very quickly. The webs obviously help a lot as well. So, it is going to be a very, very tough thing to do, but the question, which one of the faction carriers does most damage? That is such a difficult one to answer. We'll have to test out the Anaconda, but as it currently stands, the villain and the Vazago are fighting for the top spot. Now, I always say that DPS is not everything, and each one of these faction carriers has their own thing. Some of them have DPS, some of them have speed, some of them have damage application, some of them have like E-war capability, so each one of these ships is good for a specific purpose. Each one of these ships is bad for something else, so that's basically how it works, and that's basically how the game works. So they are not overall all-round best ship for averaging. Obviously they have their weak spots, as any ship has, so that's one thing to note, and one thing that you should never forget when comparing ships. But currently we are looking at their DPS, and I don't know, this thing does some pretty nasty DPS. The webs help a lot as well, so the Vazago and villain are currently fighting for the top spot. You know, I'll just laugh when the Anaconda just straight out outperforms all of them, but I don't think that's the case, especially with the buff on the turrets, which, you know, makes all these tests a bit more exciting, because I don't even know what to expect from the results. It can go both ways. I mean, it can show that turrets are just vastly superior, and that the turret lightweight ships are going to be vastly outperforming the missile ones, but at the same time it can be the other way around. And well, I am here to come to a conclusion about that. But so far, the villain is performing really well, and soon we will be going towards wave number 3 or wave number 2. I already lost count. That's how quickly this ship is mowing everything down. And also why I don't cut any parts, because for the best accuracy it's just best to let the whole thing play out. so that the result is as accurate as possible. I value accuracy and I value honesty, and I'm trying to be as accurate and as honest as I can. I think so far I've been doing a pretty good job on that. Now, my theory about the bombers and the stars performing about the same, based on how it feels to blow up these ships. It is about, I mean, it's very similar actually. I feel like the stars are still performing a little bit better, but the difference is actually quite minimal. Might be the only faction carrier that I tested so far where the turrets and missiles feel about the same, which is a good thing. It means that you can use both without a problem. But still, it will take a bit longer to complete the mission because this is not the same mission as before, and there is a bit more ships to destroy. So it is actually the reason why it might take longer. It's because of the more ships
Enemy
that
ships
are going to
detected.
spawn with every new wave. 38 ships. This
We're
is
under attack.
the last wave. Okay.
We're under attack.
So far it's working really well. Very similar feel between the turrets and the stars. Now they both seem to be popping most ships the same way. Again, that is fantastic. Means that you can use both without worrying about the damage that you will do. That's a lot of wrecks around. You usually destroy, I think, about 150 ships per mission or something like that. These missions are actually kind of like small storylines. They have some very good ISK reward when you kill all ships. And there are some systems that do spawn them quite often. And this is one of those systems. Basically, my home system has my home system is basically a island, a low sec island, and I didn't even know about that until recently. And there is a high sec island nearby as well. So in this system, you can basically get all of these tasty missions quite often and quite easy, which is funny because I don't usually do them. I mostly do just PvP, and it's nice that our home system is a low sec island, basically surrounded by high sec, and there's a null sec entry, the only low sec system in this little region. And in Evo 9 I actually went to this system just for fun to see how it's like, and well, I got a warm welcome by guys who watch my videos, and in Evo 9 the system got quite populated, which is funny. So if I ever decide to camp 6C in EVE Online, well, I already have a crew to do that with, which is nice. And well, we have completed this mission as well. So, the performance of the villain. This thing is amazing. Definitely a good competitor to the Visago in terms of their DPS output, but at the same time, they're also two very different ships. So, with that being said, hope that you guys have enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and I'll see you next time.